Okay, so the first one we're going to start with here is the Snowman Christmas ornament. So as you see, a snowman and a Christmas tree. These were turned on the lathe and started with a piece of 1 1/4 inch dowel, which if you start with a dowel, you have to find the center, and that's tricky. You can measure it, there were little jigs, but I made up this little piece that I could put over the corner or center the dowel in there and then just punch the center. I estimated where this was and it worked out just fine. But I did that for multiple ones and then used this little gauge block just slapped together, which helped me mark the individual pieces where I wanted to cut. And then by the time I got to the lathe, I was able to use the skew chisel to set those lines and then just went to town. As you can see, the snowman on the right, you get to fiddle with the hat, make it a little taller, shorter, different shapes, bigger brim, smaller brim. And then the tree is just a series of, interconnected cones. Stand it in place on the lathe, and you come out like this. So I cut all the pieces apart. I cut off the hat, the snowman, and the tree. And then that let me paint each piece individually. And then that is just a 1/4 inch dowel in the middle, and I will show you how I got those stripes on there because it was a lot of fun. Started with a 4 foot long piece of 1/4 inch dowel and some 1/4 inch tape. And so as you see here, this is the boring part, but I thought it was worth showing because it is a little tricky. So once you get that angle started with the tape, you just kind of twirl the dowel there and let it roll. Now the bases are resawn pieces of 3/4 inch pine, but I resawed them to 3/8, stuck them together and then cut them out so that I could make bunches of them. And here I am branding the bottom. Way easier to do this before you put them together. For the arms and noses, they're toothpicks. So I found a drill bit the size of the toothpick and then just drilled a couple, painted them brown, stick color, and orange on the tip, which looks like a carrot. And then when you put them all in, voila, they look great. Here I'm starting with the tree. So this is white fabric paint with some glitter, and then this is glitter paint that dries clear, but it gives it a little bit of sparkle. And so you can see, you just kind of squirrel it on the trees there in a pleasing pattern to you, and it takes a lot of time. You have to kind of do the top first because you need somewhere to hold it. You let that dry, and then you come back and do the bottoms. But seems like a good use of the paint there, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time to dry. I like adding the sparkle because it gives it a little something. Now those posts, you see, I sprayed them red and then cut them. These gold balls I bought at Walmart. They fit on. They have already have a 1/4 inch hole in them. Painting them, I just sprayed it while I was shaking the box and just let them pick up what was ever in that box. But it worked great. And when all is said and done, all you have to do then is put it together. Lots and lots of pieces everywhere. I like that each one of them had its own little personality, and they were basically where they go. So now let's move on to the Nutcracker. A little bit more challenging at first to get this going, but I had a box of parts from several years ago. I will make another and show how to go together, but basically it's a big block for the middle and the head and a bunch of dowels. And so I pieced all this together. I drilled into the body for the legs because I have others that fall apart. I don't want mine to fall apart. So you can see that these are just dowels that I chopped into the lathe and put some details on it. I end up, cutting a little bit here and there, but this is the basics of what I started with. Here's a shot of the jig that I used to route that or run that dado into that round block. It worked well. Ran that across the table saw to give the recess for the handle. I cut the mouth out with the bandsaw. And so here I'm, just basically putting in, where I want this thing to stand. That might depend on the accessories you put with them, but use your judgment here. I primed everything. I recessed these little indents for the eyes, and I think that actually worked pretty well. So I recommend you doing that. gives you a good place to put those eyes when you get ready to paint. And so here we go. So I put a rifle in his hand and kind of turned that arm a little bit just so he could hold the rifle. I gave him a sword for his waist. And basically all the woodworking is done. So just start painting. Those little bottles of acrylics you can get anywhere, Walmart, Hobby Lobby, Michael's. Works great. It's tedious, but everything's there. And all up to you what you put on it. The face, a little bit challenging, but if you're artistic, you can do it. The paint pens and the variety of brushes will help. And really, it's up to you. Maybe look online, get some pictures of other Nutcrackers, and take what you like, and then do your thing. So here they're all done. This is the Crystal Clear Krylon for acrylic. It's gloss, and I recommend it over that water-based Varathane stuff. The hair I got at Hobby Lobby. It's long fur. You have to cut it from the back, or you can't really use scissors because then you cut all the hair off. But here you go. So here is the cherry biplane, one of my favorite projects to build. I don't use real plans for this. I have a couple of shapes that I kind of throw out there and then, just wing it, like I say. You get the idea. You can cut this out of a block of wood, and then it's all a matter of shaping the pieces the way you like. There is a little tiny bit of joinery on it for where you mount the wings and the rudder. Other than that, you just want to round over the body to make it look the way you want it to look. Try to keep things symmetrical. Keep your fingers away from that disc, because if it grabs you, you will regret that. But when you're satisfied, you stop. The wings are 3/8 material, and again, you just kind of make a shape that you like, but the top one's bigger, the bottom one's smaller. Here you have the tail fin and the rear wings. And then when it comes to it, you got to get everything smooth, but you also have a little bit of joinery here. So that notch where you see, that will go over the tail fin. Just be careful when you're sanding that you don't mess up the joinery that you spent so much time working on. Other than that, round the edges, make the trailing edges thinner, whatever you want to do. And as you can see, I'm satisfied with that. So here's the propeller. Now remember, this isn't going to fly, but I want to give it a little bit of shape and a little bit of character. So I'll fiddle with it and make it sort of propeller shaped. I like that. And when this mounts on the front, it will spin, and the kids, if your kids are going to play with it, they can bat it around and it'll spin, and it'll be fun. The struts for the wings, be careful because you're using thin material and they're going to go in an angle. And so I use 10 degrees, but and that gives it a little bit of a rake, a little bit more of a realistic look to me. And so I'm using, again, 1/4-inch dowels. I use 1/4-inch dowels for a lot. Here's the engine block that goes on the front. I'm just going to put some stubby dowels in there, and it'll look like pistons, as you see. No real plot here, just kind of make them all look the same. Easy peasy, right? But it looks cool with that and the propeller on the front of the engine. So here are the wheels. I would drill through these with an axle, but I chose to do it the hard way and used axle pegs, and it came out well, but boy, was it a pain. There's an easier way to do that. Just do it. And then glue it together. There you have it, the biplane. And so here you have the bandsaw box. Now I called this the scrap wood box because guess what? It's made of these scraps. It will make a weird shape, but as you can see, it'll get a couple of little tiny drawers, and with proper glue coverage, when I start cutting this apart, it will stay relatively together. Lots of glue, plenty of clamps. As I say, you're going to be making some little pieces, and you can lose track of them quickly, so get that glue coverage. So here I'm going to cut the back off the box so I can glue it on later. And then I will cut the bottom off the box, and that will let me get to the drawers that you will see right here. And so what you want is a nice continuous cut there, but to get to that top drawer, I'm going to cut across that solid line, and you will see that here. So those push sticks. So I have a 1/4-inch blade in my bandsaw. It was a little too big for the small curves I was going to make. You really don't want to back out into the curves and try to kind of ease into it. You just want one continuous cut. Otherwise, it's gonna be sloppy on the front. Mine's a little sloppy, but like I said, this is a practice box. I'm using this clamp to be able to cut those drawers. And so what you're basically doing is cutting the front and back off each drawer and then cutting the inside out. And then when you glue it back together, you have a drawer. So here, I've glued all the pieces back together, the top one to the bottom. I've glued the bottom back on and the back. And I'm cutting out the general shape, run it around on the disc sander to get everything nice and smooth and finish worthy. And it'll start to look a little bit better. Called it a cloud box because it's sort of a weird cloud shape. I'm okay with that. But some kid will like these tiny little drawers that you can put, frogs or keys or jewels or rings or bracelets or something in. Traditionally, you would flock these with the fuzzy felt stuff, but I'm just going to paint them because this is a great looking box, but like I say, it gets the point across. And here you go. So I went with a dark green. I didn't have dark green, so I made it with some red and black, but there you have it. And you get it all painted up, and then it will be ready for a coat of clear something. I sprayed this with some clear Varathane, but that's all there is to it. All out of one solid block of wood. Got to have the brand on there. Here are the heart-shaped keepsake boxes. These are made of walnut, cherry, and maple. A little bit nicer than the others. I was fiddling with the design. This leaf shape was online, but I went with the heart. And I made a pattern, and I was intending to cut that out and use a pattern bit. I ended up just freehanding it, mostly with the scroll saw. I think if I did this again, I would probably just cut in and use the bandsaw. But this came out great. Just a little bit more work. I had to resaw the material down to the thinner side and then re-glue those pieces together because my bandsaw is teensy, only allows me to do 6 inches. But it also allowed me to do sort of a book match kind of thing and get the grain pattern of the way I like it. As you can see, I have started putting some of the pieces together. I used a maple insert on the lid to help locate that lid. No hinges here, no pins, no nothing like that. So it's just going to have that insert and then a walnut top. Just clamping everything together to get to the point where I can sand the inside without the bottom on it. That's kind of key for me. It allows me to get it nice and flat. Like I say, it was a little bit of hand sand work, but it worked. And then when you put the top and bottom on, you can cut the outside shape to the to make it uniform. And then when you sand it, man, it comes out so nice and smooth. I just did a little bit of rounding over on the edges, not enough to say use a router bit or anything like that, just to ease the edges. That walnut top there, I like the way the grain comes out, and pretty much done at this point. A little bit of finish work, smoother sandpaper, get it nice and silky smooth, and then put the lid on and make sure that everything lines up just perfect. I cut those knife blade edges down just a little bit. You could say ease them as well, but they came out nice and sharp, and I didn't want that to cut anyone. And so here you see the brand that goes on the bottom, and that stands out nice when I put the clear on it. Nice and straight, ready to go. And so there, like I say, there's that insert that goes onto the lid. Just make sure everything's nice and cleaned up, and when you put that armor seal on there, it just brings the grain out and it looks amazing. So these will make some nice gifts for someone this year.